In the early 20th century, syphilis loomed as a staggering public health crisis. A silent epidemic, it affected millions, from the poorest in tenement housing to the wealthiest in city mansions. In 1900, the disease claimed around 1 out of every 10 adults in major urban areas like New York and London. This was not merely a medical issue, it was a societal scourge that fostered widespread dread and stigma. Syphilis, often referred to as the Great Imitator, masqueraded as many other ailments. Its first stage presented as a mere sore, easily dismissed. By the time it evolved into its second stage, skin rashes and fevers would deceive even the keenest observers. Eventually, if undetected or untreated, the disease ravaged the body, attacking the heart, the brain, and ultimately leading to madness or death. These grim realities fed an environment rife with fear and shame. Panic rose with each reported case. Those afflicted often hid their diagnosis, fearing judgment. Public health officials scrambled for solutions, running campaigns urging caution, but the stigma stifled honest conversation. Around this time, the existing tests for syphilis proved unreliable. Medical professionals often deployed two major tests, the Wassermann and the Noguchi tests. Both depended on complex methodologies prone to inaccuracy that offered false positives and negatives. A pressing need for a breakthrough echoed through the medical community. Traditional tests, with their cumbersome procedures, were inadequate for the fast-paced advancements in medical understanding. Physicians needed something revolutionary, an accurate, quick, and reliable test that could be uniformly applied. The stakes were sky-high. False results led to unnecessary treatments, wandering patients, and burgeoning mistrust in medical expertise. Amidst this chaos, scientists and researchers were hungry for answers. They believed that unlocking the complexities of this treacherous disease could offer hope, not just for patients, but for society as a whole. However, this race for a cure wasn't just about science. It was a bitter battlefield, where recognition and success floated tantalizingly out of reach, often lost to the machinations of greed and ambition. While groups of researchers pressed forward, one man, in particular, was about to change the course of medical history. What he discovered would have lasting implications, not just for syphilis, but for diagnostics as a whole. But he found himself grappling with forces that could silence his breakthrough. This tumultuous narrative lays the groundwork for a clash that reaches far beyond the laboratory. It's a conflict driven by ambition, the elusive nature of scientific validation, and the tragic stakes played out in the shadows of corporate interests. Would this scientist's discovery, if recognized, bring the relief so desperately needed, or would it be buried beneath the weight of betrayal? As the quest for a cure intensifies, the question looms larger. What will happen when he first presents his findings? In a world rife with skepticism and self-interest, will his revolutionary blood test see the light of day? Or will it retreat back into obscurity, lost forever in the chaos of an unforgiving society? In the early 1900s, the landscape of medical science was fraught with uncertainty. Diagnosing diseases was more art than science. Doctors relied on symptoms that were often vague and inconsistent. Patients suffered in silence, plagued not only by their ailments, but also by the stigma attached to them. Among these afflictions, syphilis loomed large, an insidious infection that wreaked havoc on the human body and mind, crossing boundaries of class and society. In this tumultuous atmosphere, a beacon of hope was shining in a laboratory in Berlin. Dr. August von Wassermann, a dedicated researcher, was immersed in the depths of his investigations. He dissected how the human immune system responds to pathogens, aiming to unlock the secrets held within blood. His work sat at the crossroads of bacteriology and immunology, a burgeoning field with the potential to innovate diagnosis and treatment. In 1906, he would make a groundbreaking leap. Dr. Wassermann developed the Wassermann reaction, a test that could identify syphilis by detecting specific antibodies in the bloodstream. This method was revolutionary, marking a significant shift away from the unreliable testing methods that had led to misdiagnosis and increased stigma. The Wassermann reaction functioned through a series of meticulous steps. First, a sample of the patient's blood was drawn. Then, the serum was separated and mixed with cholesterol and other reagents. If syphilis antibodies were present, the mixture would form a distinct reaction, indicating the disease's presence. This diagnostic test not only offered accuracy, but also provided a tangible scientific basis to replace the ambiguous clinical observations that had long dominated the field. The ramifications of this discovery extended far beyond scientific circles. The Wassermann test embodied a promise to unveil the hidden afflictions of countless individuals, to restore peace of mind in a world marred by fear. But amidst the excitement, darker currents began to emerge. Corporate interests loomed across the landscape of medicine, threatening to alter the path of discovery for profit over patient care. As word of Wassermann's breakthrough spread, so did the interests of pharmaceutical companies eager to capitalize on this new technology. They recognized the potential for enormous profits, pouring money into the further development and marketing of the test, often prioritizing revenues over ethical considerations. The race for recognition intensified as scientists and corporations jockeyed for position, each hoping to be the first to bring this revolutionary test to the public. Ironically, it was the very test designed to eliminate fear that became entangled in a web of greed. Competitors began to emerge, claiming to refine and improve on Wassermann's work. Confusion reigned. Mistrust seeped into the narrative as patients wondered if the tests, now released in various forms, were truly accurate or just another source of profit for big business. With the promise of the Wassermann reaction held hostage between innovation and profit, the future hung in the balance. Would Dr. Wassermann's revolutionary discovery survive the turbulent clash of ambition and corporate greed, or would it fall victim to the very forces that sought to profit from it, forsaking the lives it was meant to save? Stay with us as we dive deeper into the moral dilemmas and fierce rivalries that exploded in the wake of this medical breakthrough. What shocking consequences awaited those who dared to challenge the notion of profit over patients? The announcement of the Wassermann test rippled through the medical community like a shockwave. For the first time, a reliable method to diagnose syphilis existed. Doctors initially greeted the innovation with cautious enthusiasm. But that enthusiasm quickly turned into skepticism. Some physicians feared change. They trusted traditional methods, despite their inaccuracies. Others worried that a new diagnostic tool could undermine established treatments and diminish their authority. Dr. Wassermann faced pushback from colleagues. His work challenged the norms and beliefs held by many. As renowned physician Dr. J. McGowan noted, not all tests yield the accuracy patients deserve. Yet, as doctors discovered the effectiveness of Wassermann's test in clinical settings, the tides began to shift. One tape-worn case from the Chicago area reflected this struggle. A young woman, unwell and desperate for answers, turned to her physician for help. After several misdiagnoses and treatments that worsened her condition, she finally underwent the Wassermann test. The result confirmed her syphilis status, allowing for timely treatment. An outcome that could have been tragically different had conventional methods prevailed. But even as the medical community began to recognize the value of the Wassermann test, corporate interests pushed forward with a competing agenda. Pharmaceutical companies, lured by the potential for profit, inundated the market with alternative tests and treatments, many unproven and inferior. They touted these solutions to the public, often bending the truth to meet their ends. With such strong financial incentives, a disheartening reality emerged. The additional tests often went unregulated, compromising patient outcomes. Doctors caught in the middle struggled to recommend the best care while fearing backlash from pharmaceutical giants. For every physician advocating for the Wassermann test, there seemed to be two pushing dubious alternatives. One such advocate was Dr. H.L. Gibbons, who charted the reactions among his patients. He noted, "A reliable blood test could mean the difference between life and death." His patients, once stigmatized and lost in the fog of uncertainty, now had a fighting chance. A group of men in their 30s, once terrified and hiding among shadows, could finally confront their illness with the knowledge that treatment awaited them, not just dread and despair. The stakes grew higher. As more instances of success emerged from the Wassermann test, a ratio of success stories that couldn't be ignored, doctors began turning to it for even the most elusive cases. Stories popped up from across the country, each reinforcing the test's clinical application, even as smear campaigns threatened its reputation. But the specter of corporate greed loomed ever larger. Some researchers allege that pharmaceutical interests were deliberately sowing disinformation to sway public opinion and uphold their unfounded treatments. The implications were staggering. Patients' lives hung in the balance, caught in a tug-of-war between medical revolution and corporate manipulation. With each passing day, the battle for acceptance grew fierce and personal for Dr. Wasserman. As he toiled to validate his discovery, he faced the heartbreaking reality that many victims of syphilis were still suffering. Would the medical community fully embrace this groundbreaking test before it was too late? Or would corporate greed sabotage the one breakthrough that could save countless lives? In a world where profit often overshadowed ethics, could the Wasserman test prevail? The Wasserman test, created in 1906, initially sparked hope for countless individuals suffering from syphilis. The test provided a reliable diagnosis, offering a way forward in a society struggling against the stigma surrounding sexually transmitted diseases. Yet while it was celebrated as a breakthrough, the reality outside the laboratory walls grew murky. As the test gained traction, its inventor, August von Wassermann, faced an uphill battle. Despite the test's accuracy, corporate politics loomed large. Pharmaceutical companies began promoting less effective alternatives, eager to secure profits over patient care. These companies marketed quick fixes that often lacked rigorous scientific validation, undermining both the Wasserman test and the credibility of true medical advancement. Some physicians rallied around the test, recognizing its potential to change lives. Others, however, harbored skepticism. They feared this new approach could disrupt established protocols and challenge their authority. Their resistance wasn't just a question of science. It became a power struggle as the medical community grappled with modernization amid deep-rooted traditions. The test, though revolutionary, became ensnared in a web of greed and influence. Corporate interests successfully sowed doubt. Misinformation spread like wildfire, leading to public hesitance about the Wasserman test. Patients were dissuaded from seeking what had become the gold standard in diagnosis. The irony? In the quest to prioritize profits, thousands continued to suffer without access to a clear path toward treatment. Despite the shadow cast by corporate manipulations, the effectiveness of the Wasserman test slowly chipped away at the skepticism. Public health officials began to recognize its value, integrating it into syphilis screening programs. By the mid-20th century, the test became instrumental in early syphilis detection, saving lives and influencing treatment protocols across the globe. But the fallout of this battle extended far beyond the laboratory or clinic walls. The corporate meddling in medical discovery didn't just obscure Wasserman's contributions, it set a precedent. The struggle for recognition in the medical community fueled a culture where profits could supersede science, a legacy that would haunt healthcare for decades. As the decades rolled on, the impact of the Wasserman test rippled through society. It reshaped how syphilis was perceived and treated. The test laid the foundation for further innovations in testing, leading to advancements in diagnosis and therapy. However, regulation and ethics remained elusive. The lessons learned from this episode echoed through the corridors of health institutions, but would they be heeded? Folded into the continuing evolution of public health policies, the legacy of the Wasserman test faces scrutiny. Questions loom. How did corporate interests shape the future of diagnostics? Can we learn from the past to ensure that scientific truth prevails over profit-driven agendas? The story of the Wasserman test intertwines with broader themes in healthcare. It raises a critical question. As we stand on the brink of new medical frontiers today, how do we guard against the shadows of greed casting doubt on genuine scientific progress? The battle for medical integrity is far from over, and it begs the question, what are the implications for the next breakthrough that emerges in the fight against infectious diseases?